Week 2 of perspective followed with some changes to my study plan. I incorporated Marsahll Vandruff's perspective lessons to my study, followed with Drawbox, but mostly worked with Rapid Viz by Hanks and Ballinston this week. I started the week drawing my family as my husband was reading to my child. Then I just saw a bell and decided to draw it. I started all with coloring pencils that were around in the living room, so I would do it with my kids around, and I started working with organic arrows. I drew some boxes. They seemed to be converging. What I felt this week drawing boxes is that I knew pretty much where I wanted my lines to go, and then I would ghost them towards a presumed vanishing point, trying to converge them. But I would often feel that the point I wanted to put my lines on in the first place was very close to what I later established by trying to match all the convergences. Of course, there are some that should have modifications, there are some mistakes, but I felt the boxes were getting easier and maybe a bit better. Day 2, I went back to Rapid Viz. I worked a lot on this book this week. I started studying how to add squares and then cubes. I found it useful to have this book to work on this theoretical aspect of dividing and multiplying cubes, and then working on its exercises. I have done the exercises free-handed, so in this case I would only have the beginning lines of the exercise drawn with a straight edge, but then I would work the divisions freehand. And all the boxes and the extensions were also done freehand, trying to use ghosting lines, practicing straight lines, but I did them in pencils to save me from the stress of using felt tip pens. I also started watching Marsahll Vandruff's perspective lectures at this point. There are no exercises, so the lectures are pretty much just 25 to 30 minutes of watch time. Day 3, I worked a bit more on organic arrows. I thought working with fine liners was harder, so I pushed myself to work with them. I did quite a few of these arrows. Here I got confused with the shading, but those are reasonably fun to do and less time consuming than a lot of draw box exercises. I also drew some more boxes with my Rapid Viz inspired cube. There's one here that is actually from day 5, and I drew it while I listened to Uncomfortable's explanation about dissections. Then I moved on to organic forms with contour lines. I worked with both pencils at first and then fine liners. Some are better than others, but the point was to get a few of them down, and I did it. I also like the idea of not forgetting the work with fine liners and going for them as well, but balancing with other things. Day 4, I started working with textures. They are hard and they take a lot of time. Just this page took me 2 hours to complete, considering watching the video and getting the work done. It's remarkable how time-consuming it is to work with Drawbox. Things sometimes look deceivingly simple, but following the program is quite a bit of work. I also worked on more extending boxes from Rapid Viz. The book would have different starting boxes in different perspectives and ask for extensions in specific directions. So, useful exercise to do. Day 5, I went back to more texture work with Drawbox. I first started taking notes and copying Uncomfortable's kiwi and the texture he shows in his YouTube video. Then I went on to work on my own textures. Again, this is time consuming, so this page took me more than 1 hour, and when I saw this texture wasn't working, I actually abandoned it midway through because I did not want to spend hours trying to fix something that wasn't going to work. This exercise is difficult. I think I might revisit in another time, but there's quite a bit to do in order to advance 3D understanding and perspective, so I moved on. Day 6, I started with a box, a plane, an arrow, and some lines, and just there I used about half an hour, and that's all my work, my drawing for day 6. I watched some of Marsahll Vandruff's lectures as I continued. So far, I think Drawbox and Rapid Viz are more useful as they get you to work a lot with exercises. Day 7, I got all in with Rapid Viz. I first took some notes on trace. This was new to me, so I wrote down notes about this issue of flipping a box open or rooftops and how they will have a vanishing point directly above or below the vanishing point of the base box. There was not a lot of detail on trace. This was all the theory there, but I thought it was worth taking notes and maybe working with it. Then I did a couple of exercises in which we had the dimensions and perspective of a box and had to draw it. So here, a 1x2x1 box in 2-point perspective at eye level. Here, a 5x5x10 box in 1-point perspective below eye level so that you're looking inside. What I find hard about this book is that it's hard to learn by doing exercises if you do not have a set of corrections. All we have here is this part saying, here are different sizes and shapes of box. And then the exercise saying, draw a 1x2x1 1-point perspective box at eye level. So I did not go on and do all of those because I wasn't sure I would be able to correct myself. So I did a couple and then I went on and worked with the following pages exercises, which had to do with front, side, and top views of an object and then its 3D projection. And I thought I would have a better chance of checking my understanding. So this is what I did. I started with these isometric views and I had a lot of fun. It was just like finding a new puzzle. Some exercises were harder than others. Like here, this one was hard. I did not manage to do it. And I had to ask my engineer husband for help to see what I had to see. He tried to draw it here, and then I drew it again so I could understand. And also this one here, in which I ended up having to draw 2 different views, because with the front here, I could not put the side there. So it had to go on the other side, and then I could not see things properly. So I actually asked my husband again and he swapped these views and just drafted this here. And I went ahead and drew it with my original front view and bringing the interesting side to the less visible side of the cube. And then I rotated it to me and basically swapped front and side views to get to a better viewing angle of the 3D object. So that was hard, but once I figured out I could rotate the objects and use front and side views in a way that worked for me, some other exercises got easier as well. This is the end of my second week. I hope this kind of work with views ends being productive for my understanding of 3D space. I will continue working with those exercises in parallel with Drawbox, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you for watching. Bye.